So we're live finger, right? But it's this finger, not
I gave that finger to you. You're live.
Well, folks, welcome to Tuesday at 7. Thank you for joining us if you're live tonight, and if you're watching us recorded at a later time. Thank you for joining in. We are here to talk to John and Flo, and we're excited to talk about their journey from creative beginnings to yard hunting to full metal jacket show. And it's we're excited to talk about that. As you're joining in, we encourage you to share. There should be a share button there on the screen. If you share, your name will be put into a raffle, and then next week we'll draw a t-shirt. Cool. And then, so share out, and we'll do that drawing. But as we're starting up, I'm looking at the clock over here. As we're starting up, we need to do a drawing from last week's episode, and maybe I'll reach over to Flo to pick the winner. This winner is going to receive a custom piece of original artwork that I'm going to actually make, because last week I had kind of my own episode. So there's not a ton of names here, so whoever's name's in here has a pretty good chance of winning. So Flo, go ahead and draw a name, and the winner is
Paul Talecki.
Paul Talecki.
Get out.
Oh my
The
God.
winner is Paul Talecki.
Yep.
All right, Paul.
That wasn't entirely
He's
random.
gonna be happy.
There you go, Paul. Congratulations. We will get in touch with you, and we'll decide the appropriate artwork for your show. And thank you guys for joining us again. Tonight, we're going to do some show and tell. We're going to start off the discussion, and then whenever you guys are ready to say, hey, let's go check something out, we're going to pick up and walk.
Cool.
That sounds good. And then you guys can direct the conversation. But
Check and make sure everybody can hear.
oh, yeah, guys, if you can hear, give us a yes.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have the lapel mics tonight because we're going to be on the move, and so we'll try to speak up. But let us know if you're pixelated or you have trouble hearing, because sometimes we don't know that until later. But I always start off an interview with just a random question, and this question is not terribly random, but I think it's going to be a good one. By answering by a pointing finger, which of the two of you like Halloween more? She started it. Flo, where's your finger going? Is that? So now the information is out there. But so Flo, since you were anonymously, or not anonymously, since you were unanimously chosen, tell us, not Halloween or theatrical, but maybe where those first creative leanings occurred. I mean, that may be single-digit years, that might be elementary school or middle school or high school, maybe later. Where did that begin?
Well, growing up in Cleveland, before there was On Demand, you had to wait for Friday night to watch Houlihan and Big Chuck, or Houlihan and Little John, or Ghoulardi, and get your monster fix. And I remember my dad, we're going to stay up and watch Houlihan and Big Chuck, and then eventually Little John, and enjoy the skits. And on Saturdays, it was Supercoast. And of course, I remember running home from school to watch the soap opera Dark Shadows. From kindergarten to 6th grade. and it was on at, 4 o'clock, and then eventually went to an hour, and Barnabas Collins and the Collins family, and I just loved that. And of course, I liked that kind of, I remember my dad reading me poems, and one of my favorite was Little Orphan Annie, and about how the goblins will get you if you don't watch out. I was just fascinated with that poem, and so a lot of early things like that, and then of course reading more horror genre literature, and so I just always thought it was really cool, and that was, kind of my thing. And then I did a lot of arts and crafts and made a lot of things, and found out, if you don't sell your stuff, you can easily transition to become a home haunter very quickly. So, but I will say for our yard haunt, it was probably John who started that. He came home one day and said he saw this scene in the yard where someone had taken some half bodies and made it look like they're coming out of the earth. And so he stuffed a couple things. We got a couple masks and made these things and tombstones, and then
Kicking legs. A little homemade pneumatic where you can do the
That was
kicking
his
legs
first
bottom
project.
half.
Ah.
You do something and stick it in the yard, you're like, how cool. It went into the yard because she started decorating the house totally, to the point of you couldn't walk through it because spider webs were hanging down all over. You couldn't get up in
was
the
a
morning to go
different
to work
thing.
because the mirrors had blood running down them. You couldn't see your own reflection. And I got to the craze part of like, I still have to go to work and I still have to shave. So I have to see myself, and I got to be able to get through the house because we had fake walls, and then she'd have a party, and it was so total encompassing. It was like, enough with this inside stuff. Get some of it out of here so that I can live on my life. We pushed it outside, and then it was kind of like it started its own outdoor thing, and then it was kind of cool. It was kind of like, wow, now you're kind of, and people would pull up and start looking, and you'd be working on stuff every year, planning it, and I could survive a little bit better on the inside of the house during that.
So what about you? So early creative stuff, or did you find yourself in a similar situation?
Same thing. Younger, grew up in Lakewood, similar time. It was very basic back then. The Cleveland Press had that pumpkin that came out of the newspaper for Halloween. And if you were lucky enough to get it, you could like paint it orange and tape it in your front window, and you'd do all the little cheesy stuff. You'd be drawing your own little moon or witch hat. We had a neighbor that was artistic, and she would draw like witches' faces real quick with a magic marker on the back of a paper plate. And as a kid, you were like, oh my God, I'm gonna hang this thing in my house, or I'm gonna hang it in a window or somewhere out front so people can see this witch. I mean, it was a different era.
Yeah.
And you got excited as a kid to put the cheesy costumes on, and you'd walk till it was 10 o'clock at night, and you'd meet your neighbors, and what would scare the bejeebies out of people now is your neighbors would have a little cider out, little donuts, little snacks. I mean, they'd have all these little treats and cookies, and you'd be running around.
It was
was
the
very-
streets were filled. I
and
mean,
it was
when
filled.
you went trick-or-treating in the 60s, the streets were filled, and kids were just running everywhere, and it was really magical time, and everybody was giving out treats, and the kids I remember my friends had pillowcases for their trick-or-treat bag, and they would fill them. I mean, you just go.
Yeah, you could learn on the rainy nights not to have the paper bags.
Yeah, well, guys, thank you for joining us. We know that as folks are signing on live, if you share it, next week we'll give away, if your name is drawn next week, we'll draw it and send you a t-shirt. There's a lot of folks that collect t-shirts from all over, and this is a good one, by the way. Is that glow in the dark?
Yes, it does.
There you go. Well, not glow in the dark, but phosphorescent?
Yes. Well, both.
Even
It
better.
glows and it does. I realized while I was
wanna
doing a
win
little
it.
security detail last year, I'd have my flashlight and I'd just turn it on, so it would stay dark, and then I'd turn it around, people would be like,
I could see
you got this glowing circle happening around you. Like, what are you doing? I'm like, oh my God.
It
I
turns
can't
like
hide the dark
orange and
glowing.
black light for some reason.
So in black light it changes different colors, and UV it changes other colors.
Very
There
cool.
you go. So good reason to share. I'm curious, Flo. So you are, and like several folks who kind of like the the hunting and the autumn festivities. We enjoyed Superhost and the Friday night shows. I mean, we had the Mummy and the Monkey some time ago, who also is an online horror show host that starred on Friday nights. And John, you had expressed like similar things, but you were on the receiving end right? Because you were watching that and experiencing something. Was there? How did that affect you? Is there anything? In other words, knowing what it was like to watch that. What was any of your interest in creating something similar for an audience? Did that drive it, or was this I wanted to create?
Well, I did ballet and stuff, and so we put on performances and stuff when I was in the orchestra. So yeah, there is the performance, and I think just when we did our yard haunt, it was always fun to watch the kids go by in the bus, and they would just be they'd go by our house, and then occasionally the senior centers would bring the seniors around in the vans to go by.
Oh.
And when I was really touched one time, one of the people picking up the garbage, my garbage came all the way up to the house, and I was like, well, you didn't need to do that. He said, I just wanted to tell you I look so forward to Mondays when I go by your house. And I thought, working class guy who's out there and looking forward to, I'm going to go by that yard today. And it gives you a real sense of accomplishment that you're giving something back, and people really do enjoy it. And it's creating a memory for the kids that house, because I remember someone did a Christmas house when I was growing up in Westlake, and I was just, I just was enraptured. Can we go by that house?
Yeah.
And, and it seemed like it was huge, and that there was so much. And, people didn't, go all out as much. They all put lights on their houses and had a pumpkin, but they didn't do the big grand displays like they do now.
Don't go crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, school buses were fun with the elementary kids, because the school bus driver would slow down, come to a stop, and you could hear the kids screaming inside. And you'd see their little bodies and arms hit the glass, and like a whole row of kids on the side of the bus just, and they'd just point, and then he'd just slowly go off again. You'd hear him screaming all the way down the street, and then the next bus would come and do the same thing every day. It was kind of enjoyable to watch the kids.
Yeah.
You're realizing somewhere along the line it's a memory for somebody else, and you don't know where that's going to go.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the fun part.
And I think when it grew is that we wanted to make more stuff and learn how to do better stuff. And home hunters are really very do things that haunts do or beyond, and they're technical, and they do lighting, and they do computerized displays, and they are very technical now. So we connected. I actually decided to go to this auction, and I ran into some women who told me about HauntCon, and I was like, there's a convention. John didn't come to me with that to that convention. To that auction, I think he was,
Working.
But anyhow, and everything was commercial grade, and it was a whole new world.
There's a whole industry out there. I mean, we were.
That I didn't really realize, and so then I was trying to find HauntCon, and I came across Midwest Haunters, and I was like, this is in my backyard. It's in Columbus. I must go. So that was a great experience, because Kelly and Nina Collins and Kathy and Barry, and they it was affordable. You could go and you could take these seminars, these mini seminars, and learn a lot and network, and everyone was so enthusiastic about everything.
You're like, there's
There's
a whole world of people out there, and I've heard it from actors and other people that are like, we just thought we were in this little area here, and we got to know other people in our area that did craziness like us. And then you like stretch out a little bit, and you hear somebody on the other side of town in another town, and oh my God, there's people in that town that do something silly like that. Then you hit the show, and you're like, wait a minute, there's like thousands of us coming and trying to enjoy the same thing. So all of a sudden you go from very small to it's very big. The audience is really much larger than you think. So you're not the only weird person that really loves the Halloween spirit or the feeling that you get, give and take.
Right.
Enjoying it or offering it or giving it, it all kind of melts together. So
yeah. So if anybody has any questions, let us know. You guys, so you went from a prodigious collection of things on the inside of the house, pushed them outside. Now all of a sudden the outside is decorated. At what point did you decide we're going to have hundreds of people walk through our yard?
Well, Paul, we didn't have sidewalks, and Paul Telekia of Royal Scare said, I let people walk through my display, and we were like, you do? Because we always had a fence up, and we were afraid of liability, and we were afraid of...
We got vandalized the first time. Like one of the first years we set up, somebody went through and
It
tore
was
everything.
more towards the end, because we still had the fence, and they actually hopped the fence, I think, and, you know, what we did, we put up a sign in the yard, you know, vandals struck, sorry if your kids are disappointed. And I was upset, I wasn't gonna set it up again, but John and Jared went out and got it going again, and, you know, they had actually stabbed a lot of things and destroyed them, but I think they had a rude awakening when they kicked the tombstones and found out that they were solid.
They were anchored in the ground
They
with
had
garden
made them out
poles.
of
How do you like
solid
that?
wood, and they were anchored in with yard
So it
stakes.
kind of hurt a lot, and she wasn't feeling well, I think, that week. And it was one of those, just had a big sign, you know, sorry, almost like Halloween's not going to happen this year. And we're like, then Jared and I, or one of our sons, was kind of like, you know, let's just pick up the pieces, see what we can redo and rebuild, and let's get out there and fix the broken stuff and add some new stuff. And I think within a couple of days we had it all a little bit different, but it was all up again. So it just kind of was one of those, you were like, oh, I can't believe that happened. Really, who does that stuff? And
Yep.
And that was before we had them walk through, and then Paul said, well, I let people walk through, and our problem is we didn't have sidewalks. So we had to make an area for people to pull in off our side.
parking was an issue for
Because
us.
we have live on a hill, and we're, you know, it's kind of scary, and then people were parking at the school and walking up, and we were worried people were going to get hit, and you know, and it was starting to, and we'd have, you know, we started putting tents up, and we had a huge storage unit, and you know, it just got so big.
We built walls.
Yeah,
The last year
you
that
built a room
That
up.
was
I built a big room off the side of a house. I think I built 36 wall sections, 4x8
You
sections.
have a picture of that.
And I thought, you know, I'm gonna just make an area, I'm gonna tent it or put a roof on it and make a couple rooms that we could really put the pneumatic stuff in there. And we had the air compressor set up and lighting and fog, and turned into be like 5-6 little rooms inside there. So it was a total walkthrough, a little arched door, which we still have part of the haunt. And we had it sitting there. And going up, the whole point was like, there's the house, there's the building going up, and we're like, building department's gonna come over, because it was like half the size of the house again. Like, what are you doing? We never had an issue, but it was so cool that it was kind of like, it almost pushed it to another level of, we had people coming multiple nights over and over and over, so they could run through the yard and walk through with their different family members. They come back with their cousins and then another family group, and really, we can just walk through here, and this is cool. It's like a regular haunted house, and really, we can go through, and we just be sitting out there. Like, that's what it's here for.
Yep.
They couldn't believe it. It was just it was fun. It was really fun.
And they said it was kind of like a, you know, magical thing for some adults. John thought was somebody came from a wedding reception one night, all in their finery, in her high heels, and
She had
said,
white gown all the way down her heels, and she's gonna walk through the front yard. And I'm
"What the
like,
hay?" She said, "Oh, this just made my night," and they had a wonderful time.
I'm like,
And,
be safe over there.
the
Don't
only
walk
thing-
over there.
only thing we had to watch is some kids were like, "Is there anyone here? I don't want to get scared. I don't want to get scared." And one night, Jared was in his Reaper costume, and there was this kid that was just really terrified. And Jared, someone had said, "There's no one."
My brother Jim.
actors. But so Jared actually sat on the porch and didn't move because he was afraid of terrifying this kid.
My brother Jim would come and help us.
Yeah.
And he'd sit there and go, oh, I swear to you, and it was just a little girl, I swear to you, no one will be out there to scare you. You just take your time. We'd have the path lit, actually, with rope lighting that would just follow the path. You'd be fine. There's nothing that's going to jump out and scare you. And the little girl starts on her little path through the yard. I think she took her mom or somebody with her. And I'm sitting there, and I look over to my brother and I go, you know, Jared's
out there.
and he does this big jump like, oh my God, I can't let that happen. I go, it'll be okay. And he's like, no. He goes running out after him to like warn him that Jared is, and he didn't know where Jared was. So he was kind of like, oh my God, I'd never be able to live with myself if I'd like let that little girl get scared. So it was a really funny moment, and he did catch her, so she didn't get frightened, but it was hysterical.
The other thing is some people who didn't want to be scared, after they went through, they said, now can I hide and scare people? I said, no. You didn't want to get scared? No. So at the time we didn't have actors or anything. It was mainly sets.
Yeah.
And it's like in Spew Pneumatics, I said, no, you didn't want to get scared. Why should, you can't now terrify someone else. So it's kind of funny though.
Well, one of my observations, again, we enjoy the same things, is that as a group of folks go through, there is something, if somebody has an adrenaline rush, right, because there's apprehension, it's similar to, I think, a thrill ride at an amusement park. You're with your group of friends.
Yep.
You're going to approach, you might get in the top thrill dragster, your heart's going like this, you get on and you come down and you're like, I just conquered something in a group.
Yep.
And it's a connector. And so...
And it changes all the time. Each group, each bunch of people, it's that setting changes. That's kind of how it is with the haunted house. Mm-hmm. You can get in the queue line, and sometimes a word. I mean, I used to be the ticket person for a while.
Oh, like clown?
And yeah. I'd be promising people there's no clowns. I swear to God, there's no clowns. The clown would be peeking out the door. I mean, I'd hear, oh, you're such a liar. But it's just a word, and there's just you see people getting ready. I think it's so funny on a certain level as they get closer to their turn going in that you would think most people just are like, yeah, finally I'm at the front of the line. And you just say a few words like, we've got a timer upstairs. It's simple. Red light, green light. You're safe until that green light goes on. So just relax. Nothing's going to happen until it turns green. And almost everybody, the minute you just say that simple word, they're staring at that red light, waiting for it to turn. Then they're like, oh my God, it's our turn. We got to go. And sometimes it's just a simple word, and you see them tense up because their own mind is starting to work against them. And that's kind of how it is at home too. The crowd always changes. Every night is different. The people change, the crowd changes, the energy changes. Yeah. And sometimes you just sit and watch it happen, and it's hysterical. A lot of the time, the hardest part is not laughing in front of them because it would hurt their feeling. But you got to kind of turn sideways like, my God, that's about the silliest thing I've ever seen. But
tell us about what your thoughts were. So you're in your yard hunt, right?
And then Sandy came along. Hurricane
Sandy comes along. So talk about
Hurricane Sandy struck. We were at the height of our Halloween glory. We had tents. We had the gargoyles on the roof that soaked up all the
distortions, 8-foot gargoyles up on top of the roof.
Yeah.
And the rain.
And
these are gargoyles plural, right?
Yeah, there's 2 of them.
We had tents. We had things up in the yard. We had our friend Eric had stopped by and said, a storm's coming in. It's like, yeah, we got everything anchored down. We're going to be okay. Are you sure? And it's like, so a little while later, all of a sudden it's, oh my
1:30 in the morning.
Well, it was before that. We realized we had to get out there. So we start taking the tents apart, and I remember on the ladder taking the roof off and literally feeling the poles lifting me, and we're getting the roofs off the tents because they're not going to stay. We can just get that off. And then we had to take the foam crypt down, and all of a sudden the light changed. We had this big light in the vampire tree. It's like, what happened? And we looked, and the pine tree had literally tipped over. There's the root ball, there's the light, and I'm thinking, boy, good thing it went that way, because
Big spotlight that was normally 4 foot high
they
shining
totally uprooted.
was for security at night. Went from that to it was shining down overhead on us like a helicopter light. We're like,
What happened?
what happened? How's the light like shining straight down? Well, it was on the tree, the root ball of the tree. The big 12-foot round root ball just turned this way, and it was up 10 feet in the air,
And it's all
shining
the
down
way
on
to the
us.
street. So John goes running to the back garage to get the chainsaw. And as he's getting ready to, get out there and start chopping the tree out of the street, it's pelting rain and the wind, and it was horrendous. It's a Daddy Long Leg.
Come say hi to Beth.
I need the torch.
Yeah.
Do you want me to
I
move
didn't
it?
say that. People don't like that.
It's fine.
You can train it.
I'll just pick my legs out.
Oh, she's
Come
gonna
here.
touch it.
Come here.
We paused this broadcast for biological.
Their fangs aren't big enough to penetrate my skin. So, if it was a brown recluse, I wouldn't have picked it up. But anyhow,
So Hurricane Sandy
really did
changes.
Well, our perspective on being outdoors, and so anyhow, we thought, maybe we can do a charity hunt. And so I contacted someone at the city, and I said, there's all these empty stores. Couldn't we do something for the food bank or something? And the one person I talked to was very enthusiastic, but she was covering for someone else who was on vacation. And I call it the groan on the phone. When the person came back, I told her what I wanted, and she said, well, doesn't Blood Food do that? And I said, yeah, they're very successful with the Lions, and we didn't dream of anything like that, like the Legion of Terror, but I said, we could do our setup inside an empty store, and, at the time I wasn't envisioning actors or anything, just allow lighting and sets, and we could collect, maybe cans or, produce or something like that, or money for the food bank. And she kind of said, well, maybe the Y would give you a room for the night. I'm thinking, what do you think we do? It takes us a month to set this up. So, because we're, a team of two. So anyhow, we started looking around on our own, and again, I call it the groan on the phone. When you call these empty stores with the signs out, when you tell them what you want to do, it'd be like they thought you were some.
They're empty for 10, 15 years, and they're like, yeah. You're like, really? You've been empty for 15 years? And you don't want to
maybe
lease
a
it
month
or
or two.
anything, or, it just turned into a really hard search.
But this happened. What was the big?
This took years of hunting. Really, that went on for years.
Oh.
I mean, I do real estate. It's my real job. So a lot of it, I'd be always checking for if there were any buildings or anything. The hard part is you need square footage. You need an area that you can kind of do a path or a big enough of a walkthrough, which isn't always easy.
And you need parking.
You need some parking.
And then you need to have the right zoning. And you think if you're going to make this permanent, they're going to want sprinklers. They're going to want alarms. There's a whole lot connected with it. So there's a lot more. We learned that during Midwest.
During the process, it just turns into like, oh my God, by the time you find something that has some of your criteria, you're at $850,000 to $1 million plus. So you're thinking, well, we're just a couple. We're not a corporation. We don't have like 20 money bag partners with us. So it has to be something that we could feasibly try to scratch out or get going. So that was another search on its own.
But how'd you come about buying a school?
So he came across this, was it Craigslist?
Mhm.
That has some Clark factory in Ashland. So he's a realtor. He has a code to get in there. And we go in by ourselves in this 100,000 square foot empty factory. And we get in, and the door shuts, and I look around, and I'm like,
It's like a 4x8 door. You gotta
and I said, I know what happens to people that go in places like this.
because it was abandoned.
We're
all the
we're
windows were
smarter
smashed
than
out.
I've seen the movies, but they're unusually cute sorority girls. And then I said, did you bring a crowbar or something? And he's like, no. And then next thing I know, he's picking at some pointy metal object. I'm like, where did you get that? And it was on the floor. I said, I want one. So we went through this factory. We did not go in the basement. And we were told later that they did have
people in it. It was about 150,000 square feet. It was
and it was huge. It was amazing. And what happens to these wonderful buildings that you think, oh, that could be something. When a building, you know, doesn't get taken care of, and doesn't have the heat and the water running and someone maintaining it, it deteriorates very quickly, and it's sad, but that's what happens. And a lot of them have environmental issues like asbestos, and you see all these empty buildings and you think, oh, that's so awesome, that would make a great restaurant, that would make a great gallery. But people have no idea that once you take it over, they're like, oh, now we want you to bring it up to code. And so somehow we got in contact with the Ashland Economic Development, and they had a list of properties, and one of the prospects that they asked us if we'd look at was a school. And actually they had 2 different schools on their radar. And we looked at this one, and it had just been closed a few years ago. And a lot of people were fond of this school, and they did not want to see it torn down, which is kind of what happens to old schools. Mm-hmm. They think, you know, let's just get rid of it and level it. And
all our schools just got tore down in the last handful of years that probably most of us went to.
Mm-hmm. So they just feel, you know, it's too hard to recondition them and make them fit with the criteria. There he is again. So anyhow, he's on his own now.
He just wants to be part of the interview.
Yeah,
I guess. We'll have to name him.
He'll be here for
Halloween or something. But anyhow, you know, so we waited. We had actually we're looking at another school, and we had hoped to open there, but it was hard. We needed so much water pressure for a potential sprinkler.
They didn't have the water at the street for the pressure you needed for a
So
sprinkler
we
system.
unfortunately.
So it gets to the part of, does the building have it? No.
And it was an awesome.
Can I even
building.
get it? Then you got to contact the city. Is there even enough pressure out at the road? So as much as you might want it, it's not physically going to happen.
And the sprinkler company said, well, I guess you could build a water tower. You know,
So it goes and goes and goes.
So it was, you know, then this one went to public auction. So the village could have had it for $1, but they didn't want it, you know, because it's a lot of maintenance, and they instead just wanted the ball field part. They did not want the part of the building. And so no other group wanted it because they have to offer it to charter schools and stuff. And there is a criteria protocol when a school gets, you know, closed. And so it went to public auction, and so we liquidated everything and stood in line and with our earnest money check, and we got the winning bid, and so here we were. And then it took another. Once we started seeing what it would take, we didn't think we were going to be able to do it. You know, so there's a point we put it back on Craigslist. And
It was 2 years. It was 2 years before you could get the systems okayed, approved, installed.
And
to
we
even
had to
think about
find
opening.
financing for that because we had used our money to buy the building, and then we were maintaining it and carrying it. There are a lot of carrying costs with the heat and everything. So, yeah, but so eventually Wayne Savings and Erie Basin assisted us so that we could put the sprinkler system in, the alarm system. So.
And that's so. Then all of a sudden, your stuff starts to move, right?
Yeah.
Well, we closed up we were paying $200 a month for our storage unit.
So we start
So
bringing
if we
all
moved
this
it here,
stuff out
if
of here.
anything, it was a big warehouse right away.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's if someone was a hoarder, this would be their paradise.
So, how about taking us outside and showing us what this place looks like? Because we've enjoyed the ride in through that front driveway, but there's going to be a lot of people here who are curious. You want to show us what it looks like on the outside?
Sure. You want to see the front, the back?
Let's
You can peek out the back here a little bit if you want.
Yeah.
Sure.
Just go.
Okay, yeah, there's a door there
Oh,
too.
that's nice.
Don't step on George.
Show the nice.
Oh, yeah, we don't want stuff on here.
Yeah, I don't know where George is.
Now I forgot about it.
So we're in the gymnasium, right?
Which way you go? All right.
To do that.
This way? All
So, and this is actually our entrance, when people come in, and this is our ticket room. That, you know, so when we come in, and
Oh.
of course, we're putting up acrylic screens for the COVID issue. And,
This got to get
So-
reworked.
so we're working on that.
That's part of it.
And,
We had people were signing their names last season.
last year, we welcomed people to put their mark on the old
And the old chalkboard.
whiteboard, and I'm like, oh, I took pictures of it. I would love to recreate that poster before I take it all down, because there's so many cool things, and everyone put their mark there. So,
Yeah.
and these are all our wonderful actors and staff, and I like to, you know, put them up there because, you know, it takes a village. And here's the original walls John built for our home haunt. And I said, okay, John, let me go take a picture of you, then make it look like you died.
Nice. He jumped.
So you start building them, then you paint them black, and you start realizing, oh, geez, I need a sprayer. You know, I can't go like all these walls.
Yeah.
Oh, no, that was nothing compared to.
Yeah.
Candy.
So this is where people come in. So this is the building, and it was built in 1924. It has the cartouche up there, and we actually, one of our actors, a couple of our actors, their daughter had a birthday drive-through party here instead of something at home, so that's why it's still decorated for her. And then the bear hunt was going on for kids in the beginning of the COVID, you know, shelter at home, and the kids would go out looking for bears, so we put a bear on our guy up there. But and the artwork was done by Rich Seiler.
Okay.
So these were
That
actually
looks so
stenciled.
good.
And he had to stencil them in reverse, because normally when he paints, he starts with the background and then comes to the foreground. Here he had to think in reverse and paint the foreground and go into the back slowly to the last coat was the end, so it would be visible on this side.
And
So it was
these
interesting
windows-
watching him with the stencils and the artwork.
He did the crows too, and this was part of our mural contest that our son orchestrated. I think it was in 2017, and we had a prize for whoever got the most online votes.
Oh, nice.
$500. So,
Smart.
but, and then the other part of the building was built, I believe, in 1957, and then they joined the two. So.
So this part's a little deceiving because it's only 1 story tall, but the second story is down underneath it because it's a walkout on that one side. So that's actually a larger building than this building.
Oh, and you would hardly know that, right?
And you wouldn't know it by driving by or even coming up till you get to the side and then you see the double. So there's a lot of haunt that's in these 2 floors on this side that people don't even get, even by the view from the front.
So tell us the first time that you drove up here and you're like, oh, this is on the list of auction property, and
We could park in the front lawn, gives us a little bit of area to get quite a few cars parked out here. It's got the square footage. We walked through it before the auction.
Perrysville Economic
Yeah.
Development, Joe Egerton got
I
us
had
in
to figure out,
to
could
see
we
it.
do a pathway through here, because doing it through a normal school, going in a door, can't come back out the door. So every room's got to have another doorway made. So is it physically feasible, possible to make a pathway to make this work? Before we buy it, be stuck with rooms that really get hard. So we kind of were like, break the wall here, break the wall there, add another door. It turns in, you go down the hallway a bit into a room, then through a couple rooms, then back into the hall, then across the hall, then into a couple rooms, and then back out into the hall. So it worked, so it kind of had another plus to like, okay, this would work with a lot of work.
Would you want me to open that window again?
This one's fine. 'Cause you can peek out the back if you want.
And I imagine as you're looking from the street, this is quite an entrance, right?
It's kind of neat.
Yeah.
We did little rope lighting or LED lighting around the top. So for Halloween, we turned the building actually glows. So from the street, you can see it from way far away. So it starts to get exciting
Right.
as you pull into the front. And then we've got sound out front, we've got speakers, so the music's going, the front's lit. It's already getting people all kind of energized before they even come in. So it turned out to where it worked. It was a lot more work than you think.
No,
But it actually was feasible to do it.
As we're walking in here, this reminds me is that
Through the messy area.
this
Sorry.
reminds me that when you first opened,
Mhm.
what was the name of your show?
Lessons in Fear.
And where did that come from?
Florence thought it up
Because it was a school.
because it was a school,
Makes sense.
and it made sense.
Yeah.
And then we had at your house,
Mm-hmm.
Kelly had a suggestion for us. Well, Lessons in Fear kind of describes kind of the school.
This is the
But it
back
doesn't
where
describe
the
like a
actors
haunt.
take a break when in between, you know, or when they're taking a break or at the end of the night. They can hide back here and the people won't see them.
So we're still under construction because we're just still cleaning up from last year.
And I'm getting all
But this,
these
after you go
barrels
through the building, you come out in the back, and then this is all mazed out. And I think the photo that you posted had the corn stalks in it.
Yeah.
They're literally 4 or 5 loads of corn stalks last year. I mean, we're still cleaning up corn stalks from last season. So this is going to be set up for more camo cloth to spare us the corn stalk hunt and a little bit. So it'll be mixed in a little bit, so we're not
Corn heavy.
yeah, corn heavy and having to do all that. But this turns into a whole mazed area where we have the actors running around scaring
This
people.
is actually where the people exit. As they enter the two lines of the gym, and then they go through the whole, they go upstairs, downstairs, through the transitional area, and then into the other building. And this is actually where they come out. And this used to be our old queue line.
Oh.
So they come out in this and kind of get herded around, and they usually have some of our actors waiting for
Chainsaws
them.
are out here and all those kind of stuff. So
It's cool to have this graded.
it changes at
It
night.
changes everything.
We
that
light
happens.
everything, but
Yeah.
everything turns into another dimension in the dark here. We've got actually a big security light that comes on at night, kind of throws a lot of light in here, which at first we were like, oh my God, it's going to ruin everything. What it does is create a lot of shadows,
Yeah.
which at night, the difference between the light and the shadow, the dramatic part of that, everyone's kind of, some parts are just dark.
Yeah.
And then you're going from light to dark, and people just kind of stop because they're afraid to go around the next corner.
And what's interesting is some actors like the dark and some actors like the light.
And
And
it-
so you give them all kinds of options.
Yep.
To work with.
And Dangles and Chuck and Gunther and Junior and his pig mask
They
are
hang
all
out here
waiting
quite
out
a bit.
here. And we have 4 actors that pretty much work the back here, and they're very good at passing people. Now this year, you know, they would come into the queue line every so often and work the crowd, but this year they're not. You gotta stay away. And also we'll have to take the clothesline. We used to make the clothesline all wet, and so when you'd go
People
through,
push through and they wouldn't expect it to be wet
Oh, I see.
because it'd be
Yeah.
all like pooey and pee and they'd be like, you'd hear them ooh in the dark.
Yeah.
So we gotta make sure that's off to the side this year. So there'll be other stuff to take its
So
place.
anything that dangles has been taken up, and we took down our squishy wall this year, and
So you're planning on taking tickets your opening weekend if things go as planned. It's going to be
online. We're going to push for the online, and there will be a limit to how many are sold in an hour. We're thinking, and basically that way we can control the number that comes in within a certain segment of time, and when that hour fills up, then they'll have to pick a different hour. and it will have to be scheduled this year. We're not gonna, have people just show up because you can't really manage it under these circumstances. And you do have to make your occupancy half. It says 50% of your normal load. So we also, and that we'll be able to manage, but we'll just have to, comply with.
We're
what
the
we
traffic
can.
cops, or we're just kind of directing the traffic. We're not so much the cops, but we're just giving a safe place for the people to wait in line.
And make sure that there's adequate space. That
Make sure they're spaced out, which people kind of love because we're going to make sure that timing doesn't get too short where they're not running into the group ahead of them or falling into the... So ideally for the customer, once they get going, it's actually probably going to be a better experience than getting into a Congo line where you're seeing the next 12 people ahead of you getting scared around that corner. So it's just a little bit more, well, it's a lot more planning. It's a lot more work for us to make sure the customer is safeguarded at every corner the best we can. And since this building is ours and we've built it, we've already got the divisions in the hallways. Most of the rooms have got actor corridors, so the actors can actually be in their own corridor behind the walls. We've already got a lot of things built in that we just have to take away the dangly stuff so people don't push through curtains and stuff like that. So we've got a lot of it kind of built.
Yeah.
So we just have to add a few more safeguards and kind of, like I said, it's going to be more being
controlled. It's not
the
going
controlled. Not that we're managing your aspect. We're behind. We're kind of thinking in our mind, how are we going to make the show the best for you? Because you're just going to come in and you're going to be like, ugh, how's this going to be this year?
I would imagine the customer is going to have a better experience this year than in any other year because they're going to be spread out. They're going to be somewhat isolated. They're going to get some really personalized
They're going to get to
attention.
be able to spend a couple seconds in the rooms and look and see the scenery.
Yeah.
Whereas before, if someone was coming at them, it's usually, and that's the trick of the light and the dark in a haunt. If it's too light, the people are just point A to point B as fast as they can get out of that room. That's how quick they're running through.
Yeah.
Let's go back and
Let's
look
go
at
back
the-
in.
So there is sure a
upstairs.
long floor. There's a lot of steps that a customer would take to walk in your front door through your
3 levels. Yeah.
3 levels.
Yep.
We're plugging in an alternate battery here, battery source right in the middle.
Working?
Yeah.
So this all gets kind of in the last couple of weeks start slowly coming together. Right now it's a mess.
Well, we've been doing yard work
Maintenance.
and maintenance on the building rather
Don't
than
mind
fun
this
stuff.
mess. This is just part of the construction.
So follow
My
him and
poor
we'll
squishy
go
wall
over
area. It used to be right there.
We miss it.
Oh
this
no.
way.
It'll be
Go
back.
on, yep.
It'll be back.
We'll be
This
back.
was
And
part
it'll
of
be
the
better
mural
than
contest
ever.
as well.
Oh.
And
see
this
Yep.
was painted by some local artists as well.
So we'll be lighting this kind of stuff up. We've got murals and stuff through the haunt. We'll be lighting this up more with the UV lighting this year. So I think they're going to notice more this year going through than they did last year.
And they just did a spectacular job. I mean,
Sure did.
and it was so fun because the artists were actually checking out each other's work. It was a full day thing, and it was a great time. So I guess we can take you. Do you want to go upstairs now, John?
Yeah, we'll go this way up the front. I guess
Okay,
we might
this
as
is
well.
the
We're
back, we
walking.
call the back of the house, where the actors are between the
Now, using masks, makeup, a combination of both? What do you do?
we are using protective masks for their mouth and nose this year that are actually printed. And then some of them have their own masks that will have a barrier inside.
Gotcha.
So we
And
have.
this was part of the mural contest too, by Oracle Arts, and she, with 3 different colors of paint basically, did the hallway here, the stairwell.
Tell us about these footprints. Is this the customer?
That was mine so that I could, it was the path. And then when we reversed the haunt, we originally went in the other way, and we wanted indoor queue line, so we reversed the haunt, and I had to go back around and change the direction.
So we'll peek in this. This is the first room. We're working on that ceiling. We're trying to get the illusion of the sky in here this year.
So for those folks that are watching right now, how would you describe this laser effect? Because there's a
Fog and laser.
Froggy's Fog.
Froggy's Fog.
We bought these from Tater, the show last year.
All right,
Thinking
Tater.
we were going to get to it.
Uh-huh.
We didn't last year, so we kept the thought of, we've got the laser room, it's always cool to go through the swamp. Would it look similar if we raised it up to kind of give you a cloudy, maybe a skyish type feel? In this room, right now it's dark and we don't have it lit. It's more of a graveyard scene.
Okay, these were made by Ray Kent, these.
So Ray Kent made these things.
They're awesome.
And he's got them painted on the inside. So with the lighting from the inside, it shows off the painting on the
And
outside.
usually this room's lit differently, but we're playing around with the sky effect and we don't want to lose too much. There's a lot of detail in this room.
The magic is quick to be ruined. If you had too much light the wrong way, then the laser doesn't work.
Yeah, yeah.
So that is kind of the...
And the gargoyles that were on our roof are actually on the walls back there.
They're invisible at the moment.
So you took the laser up, and it creates a great effect.
Yep. So we just got done installing it. We got to adjust it. Get the plugs in the right spot.
And then this is all more traditional.
This is a little bit more what people are used to seeing. People love this. We had it the first year, a little bit different. Then I remember after the first year, I'm like, I'm going to change this out and make it a little bit. And all I heard was people online, that was my favorite room.
So the actor can come up and surprise them. We have separate corridors for the actors so they don't bump into the patrons and can be separated. But this is a maze, and if someone tries to sneak a look under, they can't.
Because of the wall sections. So for those of you who, can you see me?
Put your water bottle back up.
Yeah, put the water bottle
Put your water, yeah.
It looks like it's floating in the water. Yeah.
Or hello. Hey.
All
I love
right.
the laser effect.
This looks even cooler in person.
Well, it does.
And you've got the dripping in the background.
The dripping in the background. In this room, we changed it a little bit. There's walls underneath here, which dramatically changes your thought real quick when you have to try to get through it. That it's just not as fast as you can walk. It's how fast you'll get through.
You can follow John.
Yeah, follow me.
Thank you.
He'll help
I'll make
them.
sure. I'll go into the wall first for you. So we've got actor corridors in here too, so the actors can actually pop up right next to you even though they're really down.
So there'd be a wall separating them here from you.
So people have a tendency to come in here and you see them bending down and reaching up and down and having to kind of hang out in here and have fun a little bit on the way through.
Sure. Where is it? Oh, this way?
Yep.
Thank you. It's hard to hold the camera and know where you're going at the same time.
The secret,
Here's the wall.
this way.
There it is.
The secret is that breaks the illusion. If you bend down underneath it, you've got crystal clear vision.
And it would be
So you can see my legs walking down the hall.
That's true.
It is, absolutely. There's another turn right here, so come this way.
Okay.
It looks cool, like you're just going through a bog or something.
It does.
So everybody always, when this room starts up and the fog starts, they're just staying and watching it. Like most of the swamp rooms are pretty cool. And usually the actors are really good at letting you get halfway through before they raise up out of it. And you're like, oh my god, I didn't realize somebody was in here.
And of course, these hangings are going to have to go away on the outside, but
Thank you.
we had them to kind of trap the fog, and then we have this kind of set up for clown night, so
Should
they'll
turn
have
the lights on in here. I guess we can walk through.
Yeah, I turned the lights on. This is the vampire room here. And supernatural room.
We still have the Christmas lights up from the Christmas show.
I was looking for a vampire clown to be in here. I thought it could be interesting.
Oh yeah.
I was trying to get someone to do it. Sorry, the cat was obviously on the TV.
That's good.
And the thing is, it wasn't on.
It's interesting. The sounds make everything kind
Show
of
off your
turn you
show
on
off your
and off.
shirt.
And this is
Oh, yeah.
my son's
Look at that
artwork.
shirt.
If you share next
can
week,
win
you'll be
this
in the
shirt.
drawing for this shirt. Not the shirt he's wearing, but one
We
like
have
it.
it. We got new ones for you too. So.
And this is my son's art room. He has a degree from BW, so he.
I
That's
love the idea of the
right.
art room. I love
Everyone
it.
says it's a haunter. Says I've never seen an art room, and they really like it. So it's creepy with the.
And you know what? The one simple thing that really sets it off. We've got a spray can, and we'll spray like a board behind the wall, and the smell of like spray paint for a little bit. As people walk through at night, they smell the wet paint. They're kind of like, what? It puts
really
everything
is.
together as the art room. Like someone just came through and did this
Yeah.
real quick.
That is a very, but you know, those are the details that make it and bring you into the moment.
Do you scent anywhere else? Because that is a great.
Yeah,
great
we
thing.
do, and then we argue. Sometimes I like the scents, and she's like, the actors won't like that, and I'm like,
That is a hard balance. I have to be careful
Yeah.
with some rooms
'cause
so that I'm
really
not
think
actually
the next
vomiting.
sense really changes your perception in a lot.
It
And
does.
sometimes I work the rooms as an actor, and it gives me a perspective. And I'm always an advocate asking the actors, what would work better for you guys? What do you think? If they need another actress, if they need another actor, we talk about it.
So we're entering something that feels.
So here we go, home haunter stuff, because we make this stuff. So
Right.
these things we made just last year. A lot of this stuff used to be in that building next to our house. We built this. We had that early on. He was here early on, but we just added this year.
So here's your laboratory, right?
So it's a
In
laboratory,
the
so we're
school
turning it
lab,
into
yeah. We have a school lab, so.
it's actually a
And
lab.
this isn't, we're making a lot of changes here this year, so it's in transition, got our tools all over, but yeah.
So it's weird, we did the UV lighting or started in here, and we had stuff all amongst here that glowed, and it never glowed before. So as we go into, okay, let's turn the lighting on, now let's set up as we add the lighting. It's weird how everything kind of changes a little bit. Watch the key.
Oh, thank you.
But this room's usually louder. The sound effect for the lab is like a lot louder, so it sounds like everything's getting electrocuted. in here.
Sure.
And again, everything's homemade. Made the lighting up here. Made the electric chair guy that we moved over there. A lot of stuff has been put together from over the years of.
It's a work of love.
Yeah.
John, when we were in here, when we did this quick pass through here before we pressed the live button, we had said that perhaps this 2020 pandemic, and again, it's for those folks who are looking at this in the future and looking back.
Yes.
It is July 2020, and the traditional way of hunting has got to change this year. And
Yeah.
we were talking about the way it may be more theatrical. So, what are your thoughts on that?
So actually, we had a plan this year that before the COVID thing, this year we had planned on doing, some people don't want the startup. They don't want the actor jumping out and chasing them. They want to go through, they want the wonderful ambience, they want the kind of creepy feel, but they don't want that jump out scare. And, or they have small children, and or they're older and they just don't want that.
We have a
So
large
anyhow,
part of older people that like to come out.
they do. So what we had planned on doing this year was tour groups, and instead of, I know some wants to do the lights on, we wanted to have all the ambience, the actual stage lights and everything, but we wanted a tour guide in costume that would be in character and lead them through and explain. And I thought it'd be really cool. They could bring through groups of like 10 at a time and discuss, you know, this is where this happened. You know, not a technical thing, but more or less, you know, in this room, in the cemetery, you know, talk about things, almost like a campfire story. And at the end of it, I thought it would be neat, you know, that the actor would say, I can't leave from here, this is my realm, but you will be greeted by the next ghost. Almost like a Christmas Carol, 3 ghosts. And I thought you could cast people, but because of the COVID thing, you aren't going to be able to do the big tour groups. So we are going to try that this year, possibly on Sundays. And it's going to be a small group. So we are going to need more actors to cast them and stand 6 feet away, but take them on a story.
Yeah.
And like when we get down in the basement, which is Contagion Industries, this is what happens when man plays God. Be very quiet because they're sleeping right now. And kind of not have the actors jump out, but have a story.
Usually you just got to look down the steps into the basement. Most people are like, not happening. Not happening. You can tell them there's nobody down there. They're not going to believe you.
Someone that precedes them and, you know, says, you know, I will be your protector. So, and be careful of this.
I'll tell you what, I like that the theatrical piece, adding that in.
I think so. We thought we're going to try 1 or 2 nights like that to see how it works.
And I think that sounds much more appealing than the lights on, just walk around, see a bunch of sets, but not get to do it.
I mean, that really takes away the magic, and this way, it's almost like a Goosebumps story, you know?
Oh yeah, that's a good way to put
You're still seeing
it.
the haunt, you're not seeing really less of it, you're seeing it through a different glass.
Yeah.
So you're still getting to go through the rooms, get to enjoy it, you don't lose anything, these are kind of the hall lights on. So when you have it all lit the way it is when it's on, it's really cool just walking through.
And again, excuse the mess, we're in transition, and we've been doing a lot of yard work and repairs on the building itself, not maintenance on the building, not necessarily haunt stuff, but we're hoping to, and this is, you know, where
this is a
our
sneak peek
actors
behind the walls.
This
So
is
when
where
people are
actors
waiting in
hang.
line back there, the actors, and we're still talking back here as the show starts up, is where we're all getting ready to go.
And that's our makeup room, and things are gonna change for our actors too. They won't be able to all cluster in the makeup room. And this was one of our murals done by one of the guys who does the Saturday Night Slasher, Stephen King. That is his name, Stephen King. And Ryan Sandy, I think he does it, the other part, and he actually did the mural here. So they came back and did another set of murals just for the fun of it. And so we were very honored to have, you know, a mural from Ryan and a mural from Stephen, and then this is the other one from Ryan. And again, they do the Saturday Night Slasher.
Oh, all right.
And actually, he calls himself S. Lewis King because of the Stephen King thing.
Fair.
And Ryan Sandy. So we have so many talented people that.
These used to be downstairs in the basement as part of the haunt.
And
And then we're kind of like, no one's seeing them as much as they should be seen once the lights go out. So we ended up taking the walls apart just because they were painted on the walls to bring them up here so that people actually get to see them. So,
Well, guys, thank you so much for telling us your journey, for donating a T-shirt to give away next week. We appreciate the tour as well. We know that there's a lot more that we didn't see that you just scratched the surface, and we're thankful for that. And what we're excited to do is to see where things go from here, and we're anxious for you guys to continue to share this community, because now everybody's going to want to know as well.
Was there any questions?
I'm looking right now. Mostly it's just a whole bunch of admiration. Everybody's saying, wow, I love it. The light looks great.
And we do have a rat rod and hearse show on September.
Oh, that's a good
19th.
one. All right,
Yeah.
September 19th.
Registration from 2 to 4. And it's for rat rods and hearses and other creepy cars. And it's the second one. It's done by our actress, the Spider Woman, Robin Johnson, and her daughter.
Nice.
And they put a lot of work into it. And then our other actor makes a lot of the prizes.
So it kind of starts out our
Fantastic.
Halloween
That'll be
season
fun.
with the Rat Rod show, so it kind
Oh,
of
yeah.
gets everything up and running.
And those are always fun anyway.
Yeah, it usually gets a pretty good crowd.
How do people find you? Find information about the show?
Oh, we have got a website, MohicanHauntedSchoolhouse.com. So we got the website going. Facebook, same thing, Mohican Haunted Schoolhouse. You can pull up the photos and link onto the website. So we do haunt pay tickets. That's through the website also, and there's links that we kind of push as the season comes along more with that stuff. But nowadays it's pretty easy. I mean, from the Cleveland area, we're from North Royalton. It's an hour, 10 minutes.
From Cleveland.
Cleveland. So actually, when we're up and running, we have people coming from states away. So we have many, many people that are like, I drive 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours.
And they
you're
try
like,
to hit, I call it haunt hopping, and they'll try to hit a few haunts. And ours usually doesn't have too long of a wait, because we haven't been here that long. We don't have that big.
we
of a
typically
following.
didn't have hours of wait, so it didn't take their whole night just to come through. Which, for this year, I hate to say it as a plus. It makes us think we can easily manage crowds, because we never had the bazillions of crowds, and we never had all kinds of other events tied into this thing. So we were always able to process people where they didn't really have to wait too long.
Right.
So they kind of came, waited a little bit for the show. We have stuff set up in the queue line area for them to
Photo
enjoy.
ops, and we
Photo
probably
ops and
still
stuff
have
like that.
photo ops along.
And then they kind of
just
go through.
can't
Takes
touch
them about
yeah.
35 minutes the minute they start going up those steps till they pop out that door in the back. Then they do the courtyard to get their way out. So it takes them a good while to kind of get through the whole haunt.
Probably from the time this year, probably from the time they step out of their car to the time that they get back in the car, it's going to be an hour.
About an hour.
Right.
Well, I would say once, since it's going to be more time I don't think.
We still have to process them.
That's,
Yeah, there's still magic that happens.
Yeah.
and everyone wants to hit the portage on too.
Yeah,
so.
that too.
But so we're pretty we're not quite sure our exact opening date. We're thinking either we might do one of the tour nights for the September 19th one, and we're planning on being Fridays and Saturdays in October, and then adding a few of those tour Sundays. So again, what won't have the startle actors, and they will have to still be small groups. You'll only be with your group. So.
And we always did that anyway. Again, we never got to the point. Kelly was trying to last year, going, you got to double up your couples.
Well, not this year. We can't.
And that was kind of the mindset. If we get the crowds, we have to double people up. We were letting people go as couples, which for the experience is cool, but to run a haunt, it just makes the line grow real fast.
Yeah.
So that's what we do this year. It's just going to be the group that you came in with is the group you're going, not mixing groups together. So it's kind of, we just got to space the groups out, the couples out,
And be ready to go.
be ready to
Yeah.
go.
Well, thank you guys. MohicanHauntedSchoolhouse.com for information. Share out. We'll
And
have something to say.
if there's any questions, right now it's mostly just compliments for you guys, but I would imagine that John and Flo will jump on this later, and if there's any
Yes,
specific
there's
questions,
just have 'em
you
put it
guys,
down and
keep
they can
commenting
kick it
and
to
they'll
us
read
on our
them.
website. Phone numbers are there, emails are there,
Facebook.
everything's on.
Terrific.
Sounds good. Well, thank you guys. Thank you,
Well,
Flo.
thank you
John. I
guys for
appreciate
coming
it.
out.
Thanks for spending your time.
Absolutely.
All righty, good night.